Two of the longest constants in my life have been my love of video games and my love of skateboarding. I first stepped on a skateboard as a child, but didn't consider it a serious hobby until my teenage years. Here's me doing a trick! Wow, cool! Video games, on the other hand, have been an interest for me as long as I can remember. The two passions have crossed many times throughout the years, starting for me way back with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and continuing to present with Skater XL and Session. Despite the fun I've had with these titles, my favorite skateboarding game has recently become Funselektor's Art of Rally. Obviously, this is not a skateboarding game. It's a driving game. While I enjoy the more traditional skateboarding games to varying degrees, I have not played a game that captures what I love about skateboarding better than Funselektor's offering. After some reflection, I think I've been able to boil down what skateboarding means to me, and how exactly it relates to Art of Rally. It makes sense to start from the beginning, and my first thoughts with both skateboarding and Art of Rally were, this is hard. I've never had an interest in rally cars or racing in general previously. Truth be told, I haven't even owned a car for about 2 years now. However, I could see the passion in the product and decided to pick it up. The game starts with you creating a player profile and speaking with a large Buddha statue about driving before he fades through the floor, leaving you to your own devices. There is no tutorial in the traditional sense. Instead, you are given the basic driving controls and a large map to start practicing. This was difficult for me to grasp at first. I kept sliding off the road, slamming into trees, or launching my car into the stratosphere by climbing a hill too fast. To top it off, in the early days of the game, I couldn't find any helpful YouTube tutorials to demonstrate what I was doing wrong and how to fix my mistakes. Everything felt so uncomfortable, and even though I had some idea of how driving was supposed to look, I just couldn't make it work. I was reminded of skateboarding almost immediately, so I learned to drive the same way I learned to skateboard. By watching professionals, mimicking them, and slamming my head against the difficulty curve. The trial and error, the perseverance, and of course the best part, catharsis. Finally getting your hands to do exactly what you want in order to master the perfect corner. Instinctively performing a series of actions without second thought. Having to work at something and experiencing the small victories that come with experimentation. Demanding mechanical complexity is at the core of skateboarding. It's not a thing that anyone can just get up and do, it requires effort. Art of Rally similarly feeds the player a steady stream of intrinsic reward, the sense of self-improvement. My first hours racing felt very reminiscent of my first month skateboarding. Unsure and unsteady, only knowing the basic idea of what I was trying to accomplish, slowly picking up proper form and timing while only competing with myself. The ideas flowed from, I only want to learn this one trick, into, I need to learn everything I can. I've always gravitated towards games where all mechanics are present to you from the beginning. The only thing stopping you from getting better is yourself. Experimentation is only fun when it's fruitful. The journey is great, but the discovery is what we're here for. All players can tackle the races using their favorite rally driving tricks: Scandinavian flick, counter steering, left foot braking, handbrake turns. The store page of Art of Rally has this quote describing the game's approachable realism. I had no idea what any of these phrases meant in relation to driving. As I began playing the game and understanding its systems better, I would learn these and other phrases through context clues. I was reminded of an afternoon skateboarding with a childhood friend only a few months into my introduction to the hobby. There's a very beginner-friendly trick called the pop shove it. I was able to do a simplified version of it as one of my first real tricks. One day my friend did a pop shove it, but the opposite way. Instead of the board rotating in front of him, it turned behind him. It was such an obvious thing in hindsight, but something I would never have even thought possible. I learned that this was called a frontside shove it, and in a small way, my mind was blown. Eventually more doors would open, from the history of specific tricks and their creators to current skateboarding team rosters. I would obsessively consume skate videos or magazines and study what people were doing and where they were doing it at. Look, there's me again. The same sense of discovery and eagerness to learn was an easy itch for Art of Rally to scratch. The path to creating a perfect rally car wasn't instant, it was built on iteration from year to year. The campaign of the game takes you through each major milestone from the early days of rally racing into modern times: engine positioning, turbo and superchargers, wheelbase, aerodynamics. All of these things existed previously but needed to be retooled to fit an emerging field. Moreover, manufacturers and drivers would take influence from each other. exactly like my specific skateboarding style is influenced by those I've watched. In the sense of rally racing and skateboarding through the lens of art, there are still techniques to discover and new barriers to break. Every time I step on my skateboard or turn on Art of Rally, it's a personal challenge to see what I can discover. Discovery leads to growth. You'll drop some tricks and you'll pick up others you prefer. All of this filters into your style. What first drew me into skateboarding was the aesthetics. The way in which two people could do the same trick and have it look so distinct was fascinating to me. As I progressed further in skateboarding, I realized that no trick I landed was perfect consistently, but I'd have these glimpses of perfection. Maybe I'd land a 360 flip going a little faster than I thought I could. Maybe I'd grind a ledge where I wouldn't even have to think of my balance. Maybe I'd just commute to school and the way I pushed felt cool. No matter how perfect you get it, it's never perfect. That's what drives me the most in skateboarding. The same quest for perfection exists in Art of Rally with every corner you turn. There's so many different ways to approach a race and so many cars with so many different levels of control and handling. The idea that cars and skateboards have literally no reason to exist other than getting from point A to B faster makes sense. The idea that people have decided to use a mode of transportation to express themselves artistically is ridiculous in the best possible way. There's equally as good a reason to crooked grind a ledge as there is to drift a corner. It looks cool. To do something dangerous with style is art, are words repeated throughout Art of Rally. Arguably the most dangerous era in rally racing was Group B. Group B was established in 1982 and did away with many limitations on what a rally car could be in order to entice more manufacturers into competing. Very little safety features were put into cars due to an insanely low weight requirement, and by 1986 some cars were producing approximately 500 horsepower, well above what is legally allowed in rally racing today. Races were held on public roads, so spectators frequently crowded around the track to catch a glimpse of the supercars. This led to the death of 3 crowd members in March of 1986 during a race in Portugal when a driver lost control and sailed into the stands. Shortly after, at the Tour de Corse, Henry Toivonen drove off a cliff, killing himself and his co-driver Sergio Cresto. Group B was disbanded quickly after, and plans for its replacement, Group S, were scrapped. Art of Rally exists in a timeline where the tragedies of real life never happened, and Rally was able to progress down an alternate path. A timeline where the limits of rally cars were able to be pressed further because the safety of people was not an issue. Skateboarding, too, is inherently dangerous. In the early 90s, skateboarding experienced a similar death to that of Group B. Most public skate parks were shut down when mainstream appeal dwindled. Perhaps this, too, was due to perceived danger and increasing required skill. This is pure speculation, but what's fact is professionals like Tony Hawk went from making $20,000 monthly to being nearly bankrupt. This was when street skateboarding really came into its own, and where the full extent of style could be expressed on a board. Architecture and spot selection started to become as important as the trick that was being done. It's easy for me to visualize potential skate spots as an unfinished canvas. A skateboarder's job is to add their mark and complete the piece. What can only you see? And how do you choose to express yourself? Modern-day skateboarding competitions, especially with its upcoming inclusion in the Olympics, lose that expression for me. They feel sterile and overly competitive in what I feel should be an individual activity. Art of Rally lets me exist in a world where the only competition is myself, where the only goals are self-imposed. Art of Rally gives me full creative freedom with an unfinished canvas and places no limits on how dangerous it can be. After all, to do something dangerous with style is art. Rally and racing games in general were a genre I never imagined myself to have any interest in. Our interests are shaped by our experiences. By analyzing my experiences and stepping out of my comfort zone, I was able to find a new passion. Not just for rally cars, but renewed passion for my useless wooden toy. Art of Rally is the best skateboarding game, and regardless if you agree or not, it's just a fantastic video game in its own right.